Hello, Froggy here, and today we'll be checking out Insight Terminus from Patrol. The route isn't particularly new, but with Skimmers it's a lot easier to do, and that's why I am finally making a video about it. So we're going to want to park a skimmer about here, and we're going to be hub transferring it. It's going to want to stare back at it just to help maintain ownership. It's possible that someone else passing by might take it from you, so want to go back just to ensure it shows up on radar. And now we're going to go join it. There's a nice hole you can use to get out of the map right here. There's actually quite a few in this area, but this one is the closest, so I like to use that. You may have noticed that I'm on stasis. You don't necessarily need to be, but I find it's a lot easier to move skimmers around using a stasis grenade if you have that at your disposal. Otherwise, you could always use some sort of gun that has explosive rounds. I'm going to go ahead and set my light low. The skimmer inherits the light when you last rode it, so it won't take much damage from this. And you can see it very easily moved over. Just going to set that light back on so I don't forget. And here's why skimmers are great. The spot we were at does not work very well for syncbox, so you would have to take a sparrow all the way over here in a no summon region, which is a little bit tricky. I'm still getting the hang of skimmer movement, so I have overshot it a little bit. But this is a lot less tricky than trying to get a sparrow there. It's quite doable, but not by me right now. Let's go ahead and drop on there, and we've pretty much got this in position. You can see the ground below us is a clear shot out of box. So let's go ahead and line up the skimmer on the edge so it'll be easy to knock off. And the cube will be joining to help us with the sync itself. Alright, we're just about in position. Gonna be on Strand with Navigator, because if you drop too far, you're going to need to climb back up. Cube is now desyncing. On his end, he's going to remain on that ledge, but you can see he's kind of falling off for us. That means that his explosive shots will also be desynced. Now just to show you what that looks like from the other end, I'm not desynced here, but this is what the Cube17 is doing. Just firing enough for it to fall, and then giving it a 5-second count and looking down. We were coordinating over Discord, and I would probably recommend doing that. Alternatively, you could use a dot in chat. So, Cube is giving me a 5 count, and then I'm attempting to ride the skimmer. It didn't go there, but because it's still up here, we can try again. Once again, Cube will give the signal, and then I will attempt to ride as it is going down. And we got it. And luckily enough, it looks like the height is right, so I won't be needing to use Strand. So, if you don't have Navigator, it looks like a 5 count is pretty good for this one. Might even be able to get away with a little bit less. I'll have to explore that a bit later. But for now, let's get into the strike-specific area. Here we've got the other hub sort of area, so we can just go in through the back. Doesn't really matter that we died to the load, but we are now within the Insight Terminus specific area. so we can make our way through. I feel like an earlier version of this strike may have had part of it barred off, but as of right now, there is nothing preventing us from going all the way to the end. The sort of walls that would be in place during the strike are not present. Definitely makes it a lot faster. Anyways, here we go, all the way to the boss arena. Huzzah! Now, there's a lot more interesting stuff to see, so let's go head back up. I cut out most of the climbing, but it's just a bit of navigator stuff, or stasis climbing if you'd rather do that. Cube17 has done a lot of fallback testing, and he let me know there's a very interesting one here. So I'm going to just die there with my default spawn, and Cube is going to go ahead and block off the area with stasis crystals. You can do this solo, but you'll probably need to be set up to do that, and I had all sword stuff on, so this was just more convenient. This may not look very special, but we are past the load zone, which means that we can just keep going and see what it looks like in the unloaded version of the boss arena. That pit kind of looked a little bit different. Actually, I wonder if it has the death barrier. Yup. Definitely a death barrier. Anyways, let's keep going. The lighting is already pretty strange. They don't really have to worry about you ever seeing this area because you're definitely not supposed to. But yeah, it's unusual to have so much of this area here in the previous load. Quite interesting. Anyways, if you don't want to do the fallback, you can still get out there. I'm showing you from the portal that you would have taken here in the strike. This area is actually kind of like Swiss cheese. We found at least 3 different holes in the area. And, you know, I've refound them many times because I keep on forgetting because I haven't made a video. But Elite rediscovered this one over here, which is probably the most convenient. Just jump right up here, and it is a direct shot out. Some of the other ones are a bit more labyrinthy. Anyways, from here, if you were to fly out to the left instead of the right where I'm going, you would get to this boss area. It is very cool looking. It's got a lot of climbable, sort of vexy stuff. You don't need Navigator to get around here. It is, in this case, just a tool of convenience. But I'm really liking the look of this Vex chandelier sort of stuff, so let's go play around with it. Reminds me a lot of the one that you would see in Well of Flame, which is one of my favorite little areas to jump around. You don't even need to go out of map for it these days, since they've removed the blue barrier that would prevent you from getting inside. I'm going to try to not use stasis much for this. Except for that jump, I'm just going to skip ahead to this chandelier bit. Doesn't look like climbing it is going to be particularly hard, but it is still enjoyable. You don't get to do too much real platformy stuff outside of, like, Whisper, which we do have back, so that's pretty nice. But yeah, I would recommend trying out this sort of stuff. It's just fun to have a kind of free-form climbing puzzle. And the Vex architecture definitely provides a lot of that. Even the sidewall should be mostly climbable. Glad we're able to mantle up stuff. If you're out of box, you generally can't, but if there is no box, you can. Well, that's gonna cost some time. But yeah, just kind of meditative climbing up this stuff. Basically have a set of stairs. By the way, if my voice sounds a bit different, it's because I am getting over a sore throat, but mostly better now. I'm getting pretty close to the top of it. And yeah, I think this is the last layer. And now we get the prize. That is pretty nifty looking. I do wonder how easy it would be to get all the way out without having to use any sort of stasis or navigator sort of shenanigans. It would make for a fun challenge. There's a lot of this stuff on the side walls that you could probably take advantage of. If you haven't ever messed around with Vex sort of walls, I'll show you what I mean. So you can kind of jump into the cubby right here. And then we can just kind of make our way around using whatever the little nice things the geometry will give us. You can get pretty far that way. Probably all the way to the top. But let's just skip ahead. I'm mostly just trying to give you the lay of the land here. At the top, this is the structure you would be coming from if you use the out of map I showed a bit before. Although you would be on the left side instead of the right side where I'm going here. And we seem to have hit the underside of terrain, which was only visible from the top. Alas. So while there are many holes to get out of this structure, they're fairly difficult to spot from the outside. You'll see plenty of dark nooks and crannies, but very few of them will lead back in. So I would recommend taking note of landmarks after you find a hole so that you can find a way back in if you want to. Other than that, it's probably easiest to just hit a load zone and die to get back in. Nothing there. Or, nope, yeah, nothing. The load zone back into the mists is pretty close to here. Just want to head to the end of this structure. There is a favorable default, so you don't have to worry too much about dying and ending back up in the regular part of the map. And I'd say it's just about time to go check out those things. I'm not really sure what they're supposed to be, but you can see some of them from in-map if you kind of gaze over a cliff. But not these ones. These ones are too low, I'm pretty sure. And see back where we came from. And these pose another fun challenge. Not sure if you'd be able to climb up all of them without using Strand or Stasis, but it could be a fun challenge to see how little you can get away with. But I'll go ahead and skip to the top here. We'll eventually reach an area that is a lot darker. There's still more above us, but here's where it starts to get a little bit different. Because not too far above us, there's a bit of terrain that's going to prevent us from getting any higher up. You can kind of see the side of it there. But luckily it doesn't cover everything, so we will be able to get on top of it. Just going to want to find about where the edge is, and then just grapple fly up. Might be able to do some fancy sword stuff if you're really committed to the whole no strand flying business, but I'm just gonna see where this ramp takes us. Eventually we're going to hit the box barrier, and the bottom of that should just be an instant death. So we'll see how far up we manage to make it. You can kind of see the normal map there, so I can't imagine it'll be too far. Yep, there it is. Let's see if we can jump into... Oh, probably couldn't tell too much there, but it kind of pulled me back into the death, which I think means that must have been the edge of the box pulling us into the bottom. Kind of neat. Anyways, I think we can get on top of a few more of those pillars. So might as well do that for completeness, although not really going to be able to get much higher than this because we know that the death barrier is pretty close above, assuming it extends out this far. But at least we'll get a nice vantage point to jump off from. And that should give us a pretty nice view.
Guardian down.
Well, let's see what we've got. So many pillars. Oh, and in case you're wondering, the next zone didn't have a box either, so you can just drop all the way down. Anyways, I hope you have fun exploring this area. I found it pretty neat. And it may be easier this season than next, because it seems like power levels are going to change around, and that might make being low light hard.